That was Kelly Clarkson with Love So Soft here on the Get You Home Show with me, Andy B, your host. Now, on this Get You Home Show, Mondays and Wednesdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays as well with my regular guests. Mondays and Wednesdays, we have a wonderful array of different people coming to talk to you. And today I have Alison from CAP. Hello, Alison.
Hello, lovely to be with you again. This isn't my first outing on this show, so great to be back for Christmas.
Yes, indeed. Now, let's just work out a few of the things and the details. CAP, what does CAP stand for? And then we can move on to other stuff.
So CAP is Christians Against Poverty, and we are almost 30 years old, so 30 years next year. And primarily, we help people all over the UK through the local church to find relief in areas of debt and poverty. That is at the heart of our mission.
Which is important because in a world where money isn't something we can't do without, it's very easy for it to become a problem. I remember at school, I wasn't taught much about finance. How do you, I mean, I remember a lesson on how to write a check, which was probably the most useless financial training I've ever had. I'm not sure how many checks I've written since then in the mid 90s. But we weren't really taught about managing a current account or how to budget or how to plan for savings. None of those things were really taught back in the 90s. So having people we can turn to who know what they're talking about is always good, which is what CAP does.
Exactly, and there is no shame in not having a skill or knowledge in a particular area, and finances and managing your money, particularly in the very modern world where the prices of everything, as we know, are going up from utility bills and to food. Um, Everything that you need to manage is also done online. Money is essentially invisible. You have to have an account and pay for everything online. And therefore, many people have just missed out on that essential skill of how to manage it. And then you just add in a few life situations, a few life circumstances where things can change. And people can often go from just about managing to suddenly everything collapses. And that's why at Christians Against Poverty, we are so passionate through the local church of coming alongside people and just saying, do you know what? Let's journey with you for as long as it takes, whether those are budgeting skills, whether they are finding a job and to give you financial resilience, whether it is some life skills for managing on a lower income, or if it is a journey through debt advice to bring you to a point of debt free, to have a fresh start. And that's so important. And we have many thousands of clients go debt free with us each year. And we celebrate that. And it is the start of, a transformed life. And that's an incredible place to be.
Now, I am in the incredible position of being privileged to have come to CAP's headquarters in Bradford, where we met again because you met a few times. But it was lovely not just to be in the CAP building to meet staff. That was a real privilege. But I actually got a little tour as well. We walked around, met lots of the different departments, and I was humbled on that day how much joy there is in a massive office complex with so much joy kind of oozing out of people. And quite a lot of the teams I was meeting are at the coalface. They are with people who are, I've got debt, I can't afford food, I've lost my job. They're in that place of financial anxiety. And yet the people who were receiving those phone calls, I guess because they love what they were doing, were utterly joyful.
Yeah, and joyful is one of our core values at Christians Against Poverty. And honestly, when you are called and doing the role that means that you, although you see a lot of brokenness, I would describe that in my role. I see a lot of, awful situations and hear about a lot of situations. But when you're offering a really powerful combination of very practical help that people need, you're offering them a supportive community, a church community that can journey with people. And for us as Christians Against Poverty, we're ultimately offering the love of Jesus Christ, his hands and feet on the ground. Those, if you're doing a role that means you're bringing those to people, that's going to bring joy because you're serving a purpose and really seeing the transformation in people's lives. And even if we can't sometimes we can't help people for whatever reason, but actually you've still had the chance to offer them some of that hope that there are people that care and will listen and support you.
Now, I am looking forward to this conversation for a few reasons, because as we're looking towards Christmas, it's very easy to be overwhelmed by the things that we should be doing, and we've got to buy this for that person, and oh, let's not forget Granny, she's got to have these particular foods, and the financial burden of what should be a beautiful memory building time can often overwhelm the goodness that should be there. So, how can we approach this Christmas, New Year's festive season with, oh, who's buying the Christmas gift at work? Are you in this thing? Are you going to come out to the meal? When you're thinking, yeah, but if I do that, I can't have Christmas dinner because I don't have that much money. How do we navigate some of these things well and keep that financial burden in check?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Christmas should totally be joyous. We talked about joyous earlier. For me as a Christian, it is just an incredible time of the year. There is so much to love, obviously, from our favourite foods, spending time with family and friends, and reflecting on the true meaning of Christmas. Um, but it has become a bit of a retail festival, hasn't it? And in the midst of that joy, it's causing some people debt, unhappiness, and worry. And that's not okay. That isn't okay for what should be this amazing celebration. Um, so I'm really happy to share some top tips. We've got some top tips that we can share. And some of them, like many things, are common sense because at worst, and we see this through our, we see through many of our clients that if people are already struggling, and we know that many people are already struggling with the cost of living crisis that doesn't seem to be going anywhere, that Christmas of all times seems to be when they feel even more pressure. That choice of paying a bill or feeding children, and people have this picture in their mind of a perfect Christmas, and therefore they want to please everybody, they want to please their children, they want the picture perfect Christmas, and that just adds to people's stress and worry, and that financial burden becoming overwhelming. So I'm going to sort of humbly suggest that maybe there are some simple things that we can do to reduce the cost of Christmas without maybe losing any of the joy in it. And the first thing that I'd say is just manage expectations. Um, Maybe start by writing a list of all the things you think you're going to need, and that helps you plan a Christmas budget. And I know it might be too late on the 8th of December to think about what's your budget for this Christmas, but it isn't too late, honestly, if you think about how much actually can we afford to spend, because there'll be things you haven't done. And my other top tip is start thinking about Christmas 26 now and going, do you know what? If I work out how much we need to spend, we could be starting to put away some money every month for that rather than getting to December and going, help. But yeah, start by writing a list of, what you think you're going to need. And you probably won't have enough to buy everything you want. So again, you start with the things that you really need and then look at maybe where you could cut some costs to stay within your budget. And I think managing that expectation is chatting with family and friends or work colleagues or whatever it might be about how much you're spending this year. So you have set those realistic expectations. So it could be, I mean, we sometimes do, Team Secret Santa or something at work. And we'll do a setting a very, very stringent budget in terms of, £1 or £2. And we'll say it has to be from a charity shop or going to a pound shop or something like that. And in that moment, you've just alleviated a huge burden of saying, it's got to be £10 or whatever it might be. So that's just one example. Setting expectations, even with family and friends. Are you going to be buying presents for everyone, or is it just going to be for children? And when people are adults, are you not going to buy one? And although that might be difficult conversation maybe to have with family, honestly, it's probably better um, in the long run. Um, and I think also in terms of expectation, it's really important to be okay with not buying presents for people. I know Martin Lewis, who's a great friend of Christians Against Poverty, and he puts out something on social each year that he recorded a couple of years ago, I think, which is about a prenuptial agreement, and it's a pre-Christmas no unnecessary presents agreement. So people don't get in for this, what he calls tit for tat buying. They're going to buy me a present, so I need to get them a present. And all that does is actually put pressure on people to buy something. So actually, if you're in a privileged position of being able to afford presents, maybe think the other way. Is that person then going to be under an obligation to get me something? And actually, you could say to somebody, do you know what? I'm going to bless your family with a gift, but please do not feel that you need to get anything for us. And again, that can be really helpful if you're in a better position than someone else. You're actually releasing them from an obligation. So managing expectations and having that sort of those difficult conversations sometimes, but also they can be really, really helpful rather than doing that. Um, my second top tip is around, maybe giving gifts from the heart. So getting creative, using the skills that you've got and saving money by making your gifts instead of buying them if you're creatively minded. I can knit, for example. I do occasionally do some little gifts. Last Christmas, I knitted a huge blanket for my daughter, which she really appreciated. Has it on a sofa, one on her bed and stuff. Took me time, didn't cost me a huge amount of money, and she got a beautiful gift. So homemade gifts, even doing a task for someone, um, and yeah, really, really think about, can you give a gift from the heart rather than necessarily buying something. Um, and you can get crafty with, your wrappings and cards as well. And really important that when you're doing a Christmas budget is you think about all of those extras, things like cards and even stamps, for example, if you are going to be sending Christmas cards. I mean, my one of my top tips is I actually buy things like that in the when they're all reduced after Christmas. That's when I tend to get wrapping paper and put them away with the Christmas decorations. I get crackers, for example, because even things like crackers can be expensive. I get those straight after Christmas, put them away again with the Christmas decorations, and they come out next year, and I don't have to factor in that into the budget. But yes, things like Christmas cards. You could send e-cards if you wanted to, or make a digital card and send it to people. Even on a WhatsApp, you could send something, a Christmas greeting, rather than actually paying for stamps and Christmas cards. So yeah, things like that. Decorations you can get thrifty with as well. If you want to replace them, if things have got tired, go to a charity shop. You can get lots of things like that. Our CAP website has got loads of suggestions for decorating on a budget. It's capuk.org, and you'll find lots of ideas there as well. You can make your own stuff, do a walk, collect some pine cones, get a cheap can of gold paint and do those. Some holly. With a name like Berry, we can definitely have some
Oh yeah.
holly berries on our decorations. The more berries, the merrier. So you can get crafty. There's possible ways to get thrifty. So that's really good. Do you want me to just carry on? Shall I just go through my
Just
top tip?
go for it.
Yeah,
I
I'll
was going
just
to say
carry on.
tinsel. We got 25p a strand, massive, really properly luxury chunky tinsel, very long, like 3 meters. I think it's like 25p a strand in January. And we got that,
Exactly.
kept it, used it the next year. It's great.
Exactly. I mean, you only use Christmas decorations, obviously, for a short amount. I mean, even if you're a put up your tree in November sort of person, you only use them for a maximum of a month, don't you?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
actually, packed away carefully, these things do last for years. And as I say, if you need to top up, definitely get them in the sale. And this Christmas jumper of mine, I've actually had it for years. You don't need to get one new one each year. I bought this in a sale again, new year, put it away for the next year and used this one for years. And I actually swap around with some friends and family. So we've all got different jumpers that we rotate and stuff. So it looks like we've got a new one, but we haven't. We're just rotating them. So
Great.
there's always ways to save money. I was also thinking, in just back in terms of presents, one of the things is you've probably got lots of, I'm going to say, nectar points, club card vouchers. You've probably even might have some gift cards that are hidden away that haven't been used. Just points on stuff. It is a good time to redeem them, and lots of those stores also do vouchers each week that you get money off. So if you're good at planning and when you want to get stuff, um, particularly for food or other gift presents, then you can get some good deals. I can't remember how many unclaimed nectar points there are out there. I mean, it's probably millions of pounds worth that people have just got sitting there. So now is the time to check your accounts and go, oh, have I got some points? And I could trade those in to get some gifts that I want to, or some food even. But I was going to talk about food because obviously food is expensive anyway, and it's the time of the year when we do want to get all of those nice little extras. But really important, like planning, I'm sure that all of us have ended up buying Christmas food that never gets eaten. So, really important, buy what your family or friends or whoever you're going to be with really loves eating. Obviously, buying or making stuff from scratch is cheaper and tastier than totally shop bought. The other thing that I do quite a lot of hosting, but I agree on who's bringing what and stuff. I don't do everything and buy everything myself. And actually, people like to contribute often. So
Much.
you know, three people bringing along a dessert or bringing along some cheeses or something means less cost for the host, but actually it means that everyone can contribute. And again, it's back to that setting expectation with family and friends that the person hosting doesn't necessarily have to provide everything. And I think it is important to agree who buys what for a meal or something. Um, and I think it is important to say that many people that we work with at Christians Against Poverty, on particularly on low incomes, they can't even afford the basics, never mind having any money set aside for Christmas. So I think it is really important that to acknowledge that you or somebody listening could be just overwhelmed by that financial pressure. And whatever you're looking at in terms of these top tips, it isn't going to work. So there is free confidential help available from Christians Against Poverty and other organisations. And quite often, if you're using a local service such as a food bank, they will do additional Christmas help, hampers and some of these nice little extras. So again, I think tap into what is available locally as well to make your budget go as far as it possibly can, rather than thinking I either have to go without or I have to get into debt in order to afford those nice little extras.
Those expectations thing, that is so important though, because we'll all do this, and but there's another advantage of getting more people involved. One other is that they feel a sense of ownership of whatever gathering it is, rather than just turning up, sitting down, eating. Actually, if you're bringing something, now it's part of an event you're actually going to, which actually makes it better. And you get a wider sense of food. If one person's providing all the foods, if I'm cooking for my family, I know what I'm going to make. If somebody else cooks, it's different. When you start bringing it all together, now it's even more exciting because you've got an even better smorgasbord of food.
Exactly. And so I'm hosting some of my family next weekend actually for a pre-Christmas get together. And everybody loves to bring stuff. In fact, I think one of my brothers, when they do their pumpkin carvings, they then make massive batches of pumpkin soup, put them in the freezer, and they come along, bring that along ready for our gathering. And that sort of some of those things, interestingly, they can become their own traditions, and Christmas is so full of traditions. And actually, those managing expectations and some of those more fun little things, whether it is a secret Santa where you've all had a maximum of £1 to spend or something, become the moments that you really remember. I think in those funny little traditions and actually cost savings can become the highlight of people's Christmas, and sharing time together.
Yeah, it's Christmas can be a great time and it can be a really stressful time, but that expectations word is so important because you think, oh, it's all going to be great, it's all going to be fine. Do you know what? We actually have to think things through. I remember one year we actually hosted Christmas. The turkey that we actually had finally saved up to buy went off in the freezer, and we discovered Christmas Eve it was been battered and bruised. And when it defrosted, it wasn't something we were going to eat on Christmas Day, which sent us into a blind panic, to be honest, because it's Christmas Eve. What are you going to do now? We went out and found some chickens. We were banging on the door of a supermarket, like, "Hello, please! I know you're in there. I need a roast for the morning." But these things can throw us over the edge. Now we had money at that point 25 years ago. It wasn't a major issue. We had other food in the freezer we could have used, but not everyone's in that situation. I don't know. We could do that today, but 25 years ago, pre-children, we could have done. But it's an expectation of, well, if this goes wrong, what's going to happen? Our best Christmas dinner was when the meal didn't happen. We had turkey steaks, like burger things, but steaks. It wasn't your classic roast beef or turkey. Do you know, it was cheap. It was brilliant fun.
Exactly. I mean, we've got some quite odd family traditions that we did when our kids were really younger, were really young. We want to just really enjoy our Christmas time together. And so our Christmas dinner ended up being a smorgasbord of everybody's favourite food. And bearing in mind our children were really young at the time, we ended up having scrambled egg with something else and all of these random things on a plate. But they were everybody's favourite. Now there's no way that I'd get away without the full roast dinner with all of the trimmings because they're all grown ups. But actually, they loved it, and it meant that they sat down and enjoy the meal, and they still talk about it and think that we're very odd as parents, but I'm all right with that.
I suppose when the expectations is, if we're trying to create this, like you said, this sort of picture postcard perfect Christmas dinner and it's all wonderful, that's great if we can pull that off. But if we don't pull it off and it's not our fault, we can be just as disappointed as not being able to start even thinking about being able to have that. But actually, are we trying to create a perfect moment? Or are we trying to build a memory? And if it's about expectation building, if we're trying to build the memories, not just the thing, actually it doesn't matter so much or even necessarily at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's an element of um, working out what's the reality and what's going to last beyond Christmas Day, and it will be the memories and the traditions and probably the funny things that you've put in and the moments of connection, whether that's doing some crazy free games, or whatever it might be, um, rather than a magazine or a social media implication. So I think, yeah, we have to be realistic, set the expectation. What do we want it to actually be like? And then budget accordingly. And I think, again, having that expectation and often people with younger children feel the real pressure about what's going to be delivered. What is it going to be? And I think you can have the conversation with children to say, that's what's going to be possible. We are going to have that, and focus on what we are going to do, not on what's not going to happen. And there's plenty of things that you can do that are free, for example, um, that don't cost money. I went to a great brass band concert, for example, that was completely free, run by the local brass bands, and those are the sorts of things that make memories that are Christmassy. It doesn't have to be the massive experience of a Christmas market that will be hugely expensive, or Christmas lights, or whatever it might be. So I think, yeah, having those conversations. But I'm really mindful that um, there are people for whom it is an absolute desperate struggle, and for these for as much as I can share some top tips that can make a difference, I also want to say if it is a level of absolute struggle, then please do reach out for more substantial help, whether that's from Christians Against Poverty, whether it is from another local organisation that can give you some help, because to feel that absolute burden at this time of the year is not good for anyone. And particularly, I would say it is for parents, and it is for single parents in particular, where they really do feel the struggle. And our Christians Against Poverty Christmas appeal, which I hope you don't mind me mentioning, features the most incredible mum of three, Jade, and her life has completely been transformed from a point of not being able to put food on the table. She received emergency aid from Christians Against Poverty, emergency food aid, to be able to do a shop. And she was one that absolutely felt the incredible weight of pressure at Christmas. So she got some immediate help in order to just be able to put food on the table at the critical time of the year, and then started a journey that has seen her life utterly turned around, which is why at this time of the year we want to be able to offer that real practical emergency food aid, to mean that at this time of the year there's nice stuff available for people to be able to feed their family and not think I'm going to be even more in debt in order to just have not even a fancy Christmas meal, but just a hot meal on the table at this time of the year.
I do remember, I think I've shared this with you before, but when we lost our job, it was sort of between the summer and the December. And of course, it's okay when you lose your job that you know you've got to deal with it and all that. But as Christmas was getting closer and closer, and we still didn't have money in and all the rest of it, you're thinking, well, what are we going to do? Last Christmas we had presents and nice food, and we did go to a food bank. And one of the lovely things was that church had realized and was starting to say, give us some Christmas things as well. So we had, I think it was like a Yule log, just like a, I don't know, £1.50 Yule log. That was so precious because it was a Christmas themed thing that we could save up for Christmas. And yeah, it made the difference for us. I remember one time we had our business went down 2008, 2009, and someone brought us presents, but they also brought us wrapping paper, sellotape, scissors, and gifts that we could wrap up to have an ownership of giving our child a gift that we were involved in, because that was, I mean, I cried quite a bit at the time, but it made such a difference, not just to have a gift to give to our kids or for our children, but one that we could wrap up. And they had thought of everything. There was a pair of scissors and there was sellotape, wrapping paper, and it was all there. It's like, look, you can now get a wrapping paper. The whole thing's there for your child, rather than here's a gift, wrap it up. Okay, what am I going to wrap it up in? But they thought of every single thing possible. It was great.
Yeah, and I think that's lovely. It's just really the human touch. And I think when we were talking about what needs to be in somebody's budget for Christmas, it's realizing it's not just, oh, the presents and the food. It's the things like the wrapping paper, it's the things like the decoration. And I remember when we've done hampers for, say, CAP clients in the past, we've even done things like putting in a little tree, like the sort of the thing that I've got behind me. Again, not an expensive thing, but putting in that so that they've got something that they can put ready in their home that's done. But along with a few nice bits of food is transformational for how somebody feels, not just saying, oh, here's some nice food, but you're going to have to go and buy some decorations or whatever. So, yeah,
I guess
really
as
important.
Yeah, as times of the year go, this is probably one of the, I think probably the most pressured of, we are supposed to buy gifts, we're supposed to have nice food, we're supposed to have fun, we're supposed to invite people, all these shoulds that sort of
Yeah.
lay weight upon us. But actually, from the Christian perspective, this is the one time of year when you should feel the least amount of pressure because of the gift of Jesus being born as man some 2000 years ago. How would you try and help us to understand why actually having pressure upon us, this is the one time of year that actually we have a right to have less of that, so to speak?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think, as I started to say earlier, it is what's going to last after the 25th of December. That's the way that I try and think about it, is that actually the connections that you've made with family and friends that you've been with, the time that you've spent, the slightly, the personal traditions that you've done. Is that a walk you've been to? Is it some local event that you've been to that you go to every year? And obviously, churches are full of events at the moment, from carol services to Christingle services to whatever it might be. And I would say that make sure that in all of your planning and all of what you're doing, you put in place those key connection points to the real meaning, because they're free going to all of those different things. Um, they are definitely good for our soul, and they reconnect us in the midst of everything that's going on. And actually, I think some of those things will be the things that you remember um, long afterwards. There's free quizzes you can get online. You can do family games and things. I say those are the things that people will remember. But yes, definitely, it is hard to feel the pressure at a time when there shouldn't be those shoulds, to be honest.
Let's just look a little bit at the work do. I remember it's just some I've not had such a problem driving trucks. There aren't really that many works do's. My wife had a very different career, and there was always the party. There was the bit before the party. There was the bit after the party. Then there's the Christmas present for the person that's leaving. And she was racking us up one day and thinking, if I do all of this, I'm not going to feed my kids for the next week because I spent it all on people I don't know. But then there's that wanting to do something because she's a Christian. So I want to be Christ-like in how I approach you, but I really can't afford to do all the things that you want to do for the Christmas do that isn't actually quite as free as you think it is, because there's a taxi both ways, and then there's the pre-drinks, and then there's all the other, and the nice outfit and all those things. So how would you encourage people who are struggling with perhaps work dues, especially this time of year, to say, do you know what, it's okay to say no? How would you help them to navigate that one better?
That's an interesting one, because I've come from big corporate culture before I started working for Christians Against Poverty, when our Christmas do was actually paid for. So I haven't had to navigate that personally, but I can absolutely see that that can be an issue. And again, I think there is the managing expectations again. And I think something like, it's working out what you can afford and what you can't. And yes, we all want to have something new to wear. That's when I think an honest conversation with another friendly colleague about, could we borrow? Could we swap? Is there somebody else that lives even vaguely near me that we could share a taxi with? So again, I think there's an element of, you have to make yourself vulnerable sometimes to be able to say,
Hmm.
I can't afford this, or is there a way that we could team together to make this possible? And in terms of things for, again, things for colleagues or presents or something, I think it comes back to that gifts from the heart. You can be very meaningful with a beautifully worded card, a personal gift, because you're recognizing that you know someone, um, rather than it necessarily being about a lot of money.
Let's just round your top tips up. Have you got one that's your favorite of all the things you've been talking about? The one top tip you think, yes, that's the one that helps me the most.
I think probably I would say it's have a clear budget about how much you are going to be spending at Christmas. I think it is working out what are all of the elements that needs to be covered, and then it's then going through, when we do the money coaching from Christians Against Poverty, there's a bit of a tool that we use on things. So people look at a budget, and then we go through the 3 C's. We go through cut costs. So can you do the same thing but do it cheaper? We do cut back. So you do, well, I'm still going to do this, but I'm going to do it a bit less. And we do cut out, which is you just don't do it. And I would do the same. I would take that approach for Christmas. It's saying, what are all the things that could be on the plate to spend? What's my budget? And then going through, can I cut costs? Can I buy things early, for example, when it's on a good price and put it away in the freezer? Can I use some points or some vouchers? I would be doing can I cut back on some stuff? Do I really need to have all of that? Do I need to buy presents for everyone and have that conversation? And there's some things that you just don't need to do, to be honest, and cut it out and say, yeah, I don't need new Christmas decorations. I don't need a new Christmas jumper. I can borrow one from somewhere. So, yeah, I would say have the budget and then go through that process of cutting costs, cutting back, and cutting out. And actually, when you do that, and particularly the cutting out, I think that's one of your other questions. That's when you realize that you've got room for the true meaning of Christmas, when you've cut out some of the other things.
And just circling right back to where we began this conversation, when is the right time for someone to say, do you know, I think I need some help with my finances. I'm not sure that I can do this. When's the right time to contact someone like Cap?
The right time is when you know that you've got a problem. Um, we're already obviously getting calls now, and our centres obviously are taking bookings for January. But I would say that, I mean, about about 2/3 of our clients at Christians Against Poverty wait up to a year to call us after they realise they've got a problem. That's a long time, a year. And scarily, 1/3 of them wait up to 3 years before calling us. So I would say if somebody is struggling financially, um, if it is today, I would say get in contact with Christians Against Poverty, because even if we couldn't start that debt journey straight away, it will put you in contact with the local church. And we know that the local church is a massive source of help. We've actually just released another report called Beyond Belief that talks about the scale of how many people have received help through the local church, and lots of different help available. And as I say, if you've got in contact with your local church, then they could help you out with something really practical, to sort of alleviate the immediate before we can start working with you on some of that more longer term financial help.
I guess the message here really is it's not beyond hope. It's not beyond
No,
help. If you're struggling, reach out to CAP or your local church. And actually, there are some really simple things. You talked about the three C's, which actually all of us probably fairly semi-instinctively can think, well, that's a good idea. If we spend less here, we can do it over there. We can start to make those kind of mental choices. But I guess where Christians Against Poverty comes in, it really helps us to think from an outside perspective, which maybe that's a struggle. Oh, it's a bit cold and they won't understand me, but I can say, having been to the office, they are absolutely beautiful people. I've met many of them personally. They're great. Getting emotional remembering my day at CAP, but they are beautiful people who just want to help, and that is something that is such an amazing thing. If you're in a financial struggle, to be able to reach out to people who actually care about you, have some advice, can literally help you process whatever it is the thing that you're going through finances. And that's what I'm taking from this conversation, sort of to shout about a bit louder again, is you know what, CAP's there in all sorts of ways, but don't not reach out. Don't wait for 3 years. Just pick up a phone
no,
and
definitely. Yeah, don't even wait for 3 months, to be honest. You can find all of our details from our website, capuk.org. You can find out what's available in your local area. And going back to Jade, who features in our Christmas appeal, she talks about how she made that first phone call. And on the phone, they said, what do you need? Do you need an energy top up? Do you need food? And then it was sorted out for her. And she was blown away. She was, these people don't even know me, and yet they're offering to help. They are so friendly. They've asked me what I need. And so many other calls that she'd made in her life trying to get help, that had not been the approach. But yeah, I can guarantee you've met these people, Andy. You know that they're genuinely nice people. and we want to help wherever we can.
Amen. Yes, beautiful people. I was so honoured with my older sons to come along and do a day of live radio. Met loads and loads of staff, and it's just such a great feel, sense to the sort of, that sort of office noise you can get, the kind of background level. That was just joy, which in the context of what you guys are having to deal with day in, day out, really speaks to the individuals who are passionate about helping other people and specifically have a knowledge in their own heart that we can help.
Exactly. And I think all of it is fueled by the love of Jesus, and it is through the power of the local church. As wonderful as our team up at our support hub in Bradford are, they are the support hub for the local church and all of our local CAP workers that are on the ground serving their hearts out day in, day out in their local community. And that is what is so powerful, that it isn't just the people on the phone or working behind the scenes. It is the people on the ground who offer that incredibly personal service, because everybody's journey is different and everybody's personal circumstances are different. And that becomes a very powerful combination. If it was just us locked away in Bradford, then that would be great, but it's the work that happens on the ground where lives really are transformed.
Yeah, no, very much. Alison, thank you. Just give us the website one more time, and there's something we wanted to say together. But what's the website again for CAP?
It is capuk.org.
Which is dead simple. If you're struggling, you want some help, you want some advice, get hold of the people at CAP because they are fantastic. And the thing that you wanted us to say
Is we want to wish you a very,
very, very
very
Christmas,
Christmas.
because we have the same surname. You see, it's not complicated.
Yeah,
Right.
Merry Christmas.
Have
What
a
could be
Merry
better?
Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. We need more berries in the world. Gets better. Right. Alison, thank you. I'll leave you to your day. It's been a pleasure to talk to you as always. CAP uk.org. Is that right?
Yes.
There we go. capuk.org. Go and reach out to Christians Against Poverty. If you're struggling, if you're thinking you're struggling, not sure if you're struggling, reach out. Now is the better time. Don't wait. Get in touch and get some help. Alison, thank you for those top tips and joining us today on the show. We're going to get to some more music right now, and I'll be back in a while.